Trust me, you're definitely unique, Bella, in all ways. But this improvement through philosophy is people trying to run away from the fact that we are all cruel beasts, born that way, die that way.
Hey, welcome to our podcast, The Rank with John and Zac. I'm John.
I'm Zac, and as the name suggests, we'll be reviewing and ranking, well, everything.
Please like, comment, and subscribe.
I like it when the upload gives it to me real good, you know?
Yeah, I also like it when the upload gives it to you real good.
I'm like, upload that.
Yeah, he says that a lot.
It's like if The Matrix was a porno.
Yeah.
Wasn't The Matrix a porno?
Put that right into the back of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, it's so hard.
I'm imagining like all that goo in the pod, you know?
Oh, gross. It's just filled up with orgasms.
It's not even necessarily a seminal fluid or something. It's just like pure viscous orgasm, like in its physical form. That's
why it's a goo, because it's like the new stuff it's like gone on top of the old hardened stuff.
Oh yeah, that's
mixes together. I
just saw on the internet, some guy tweeted out, it's like a fucking like gallon jug of something, and it's filled with, it's like filled completely, and he's like, I finally filled it today, and
it was semen.
It was all semeny, and like it looks like it might be that, and then he responds like under himself, and he's like, it's exactly what you think it is.
Oh God.
And yeah,
how do you even find something like that on Twitter? Like what are you looking at that gets fed to you?
That was on Reddit. That was like on.
Oh, that was Reddit. Okay.
Yeah, like it was being passed around on Reddit. So that was, yeah. What does the algorithm think that you need exactly?
Yeah, exactly.
We know you enjoy semen content. Here you are. Like, I only like Navy stuff. I didn't want this.
We like Navy stuff. Oh boy.
They're like, well, if you like Navy stuff, you should really like this. That was a joke about the Navy being gay.
Oh.
Yeah. It's always good when you have to explain.
Well, so why don't you give us an agenda?
Well, first come the pure unadulterated orgasms. Well, actually, I guess first comes the manipulating of the knob, and then the pure unadulterated orgasms. Followed by, I guess, Banter, which we did. Followed by this, which is my favorite part, the agenda. Followed by potent notables, which are notables
really
that are potent.
Kicking ass on this one. No
followed
mistakes
by well, yeah, no mistakes, but no, everything's somehow not quite correct, despite not being wrong technically. Followed by the movie overview, where we talk about the movie from beginning to end. Followed by
we should say that this spoiler alert for that one. And yeah. The only reason I want to specifically cut you off there is because this is like kind of a new movie, so. Yeah, we really recommend you watch the movie before you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, and I'll probably mention it again later, but I knew like zero about this movie going into it, and I think that's actually
a good thing. Yeah,
that's a good way to go into it. I was like, I don't know what this movie's going to be about, and then I was like 30 minutes in, and I'm like, I still don't know what this movie's going to be about. But anyway, where are we? The rank. We're going to rank it. We're going to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 categories, and then we're going to find out, is it the best picture of 2023? We don't know. We'll see. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. And then we're going to say goodbye, and then I'm going to have a pun for you, which I came up with.
Great. I'm glad you're ready for it. Well, let's dive in. So today we're ranking Poor Things, the 2023 film starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and Willem Dafoe. It was written by Tony McNamara, which was adapted from the novel by Alistair Gray, and directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. So we are ranking this before the announcement of the Best Picture nominees, under the assumption that this will be nominated for Best Picture. And so normally I'd say what categories it was nominated in and what it won, but that won't be the case for this one. Although our plan is to do a Oscar prediction episode for you all before the Oscars too. So that should be fun. So Poor Things is a postmodern work that revolves around a young woman who is believed to have drowned. However, a surgeon named Godwin Baxter manages to bring her back to life using innovative surgical techniques. As she returns to life, she is renamed Bella Baxter and becomes a strikingly intelligent and beautiful woman. The movie explores themes of identity, power, and the relationship between science and morality while incorporating elements of satire and social commentary. Well, as you all know, and as we promised, we're ranking all the nominees for this year and getting them done before the telecast on March 10th. I'm excited to find out what the true best picture of the 2023 releases was. What do you think of kind of where we're at so far right now?
Well, it's actually funny. I was thinking about it last night. I don't know if it's just that I've actually watched all of them this year. I haven't done I'm going to watch all the best picture nominees in years. I think 1998 was the last time I tried to do that. What won that year? Was it Saving Private Ryan?
Well, Saving Private Ryan did not win 1998. It was kind of a ridiculous thing, if you remember. But I don't know if it was 1998 or 1999.
Yeah, whatever year it was.
Whatever year it was that it was nominated, it lost to Shakespeare in Love.
Oh, right.
I think it was 1999, but
okay, 99 sounds about right. I tried to see all of those, but it was harder to go see movies back then because like they released them maybe for the they nominated. We're releasing it for a week, and then if you missed it, you missed it. Because I missed Elizabeth. It was the only one I didn't see. So I still haven't seen it actually. Maybe Elizabeth is the best movie of that year.
I haven't seen Elizabeth either.
Oh,
actually, so we should do that one at some point.
Oh, I think that was Your Life Is Beautiful was nominated too, as well as the Thin Red, as well as because I remember thinking,
Line, that's right. There were two. World War II
why are there 3 World War II movies and 2 movies that involve Queen Elizabeth? Very strange here. But
well, the other thing too is, so did you watch The Thin Red Line?
I did not see that one either, so it looks like I need to see both of those. But I did a really great job. I saw 3 out of 5.
Well, what was weird.
I'm sorry, I don't know what year we're talking about.
Here, let's go back. I'm gonna go. I know that you're right about The Thin Red Line being nominated with Saving Private Ryan.
Is this all the same year though, or am I conflating years?
No, so Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, Saving Private Ryan, Shakespeare in Love, The Thin Red Line.
Okay, so that was right.
Yep.
Okay.
And Shakespeare in Love won because.
I mean, it's not a bad movie. It is
not Saving Private Ryan.
It seems possibly not quite as good. The Academy was like, "Oh, come on, we already saw Spielberg take on World War II."
Well, so I remember like not finishing the Thin Red Line, and I remember being sort of excited about it because everybody's like, "Oh, Terrence Malick hasn't done a movie in 25 years or whatever, and he's come back and he's doing a movie and blah blah blah." And I remember watching it and being like, "What the fuck is happening in this movie?"
I guess that's also, it's Terrence Malick for you, but it's.
Have you watched other Terrence Malick ones? Because it seems very like.
I haven't, but I wanted to really bad. Which one is it that came out recently that I really not recently? It came out years ago. Tree of Life. It came out. Oh, it came out 13 years ago. Recently. But I really wanted to see that. Yeah, I guess that's that.
Yeah. All right. Well, so
sorry. But anyway, so I tried to go see all those movies. Didn't work. I haven't seen, unlike, I think you've done a couple of years recently where you tried to see them all. And so it might just be that I've seen more movies this year than I usually see, but I feel like these are an excellent crop.
I feel like that too, so far. Yeah. Similar to 2015, in my opinion, so far. So before the Academy Awards, like when I tried to see all of them, Sarah and I were able to do 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. Oh, and then we fell off the wagon after COVID.
That's pretty good. So how do you feel? Do you feel like this year is better than many years, or is it just on par? Or
I think so. It's funny. The first year that we did it, I felt like was such an amazing year, and then every year after that was kind of like meh. It was like not terrible or anything, but just not as great. 2019 was actually really good.
Okay.
1917, Ford versus Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite.
Oh yeah, Parasite won that year. I remember.
Yep. That was a good year.
One of the actors in Parasite just died, by the way.
I know. I saw that.
Weird. But anyway, so yeah, this year is like, I don't know, the four. Have we done 4, 5 movies from this
This
year?
will be our 5th, I believe.
Yeah, the other 4 were all I found excellent. So, I'm pretty happy so far. We'll see if this one keeps up the. Yeah, we've done 4. I remember now. Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie, and Oppenheimer.
Yeah, and I mean, really, all of them have been pretty excellent. I would say that The Holdovers would be like one of the best pictures of most years.
Of a lot of years, yeah.
And this year was kind of like,
Yeah,
not,
it's actually not quite
as
up to
good.
the other 3, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not even an insult.
It's really not so good. But it's got some really stiff competition.
Yeah, if that's the worst movie you watch, you're doing okay.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, but is Poor Things gonna hold up? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to hear your take on it. I'm excited
to hear my take too. I'm interested to see what I'll say.
It's funny. I was thinking the same thing. Like I watched the movie and I'm like, I cannot do the write up yet.
Yeah,
I need to let this sink in.
Needs to digest.
So I mean, I wrote it up today, and I saw it 5 days ago. So well, let's go into the potent notables.
Can't wait.
Potent notables.
So typically we start with box office results, but I watched this on not opening night, but opening weekend of when it went wide, when it went to wide release.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to basically have what it has up through December 28th. And that is $6.6 million domestically and nothing internationally. And it had a budget of $35 million. Now, I will say that $35 million is coming from Wikipedia. So that might not be right. But watching the movie, it feels kind of right.
Yeah.
So there aren't very many potent notables for this. I think it's a combination of the fact that there wasn't much promotion going on because of the actors strike. And then also it's newer, so there's just not as many facts that have come out about it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But here we go. Yorgos Lanthimos commended star Emma Stone on fully committing to filming her very graphic sex scenes in the movie. He said, quote,
seemingly committed.
Oh, yeah. She was very committed to it. He said, quote, "It was very important for me to not make a film that would be prudish because that would be like completely betraying the main character. We had to be confident Emma had to have no shame about her body, nudity, engaging in those scenes, and she understood that right away. As soon as I started saying something about sex, she would say, yes, of course. It's Bella. We will do what we need to do." Okay, Yorgos.
It's like you could go so many directions with you're talking to Emma Stone, and as soon as I said anything about sex, she said yes. I know. And like, it's the sort of thing where if I did, before you see the movie, if you find out that there's quite this much graphic sex scenes and it's directed by a guy, you might worry that it's like,
he's trying to get the jollies.
Now, Emma, you really have to be totally naked here. And she's like, oh, okay. But it sounds like it was collaborative, almost like.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope.
Especially given the theme, you mentioned the theme is Bella coming to understand a lot of things about herself.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Being okay with all of that is important. And to be fair, she wasn't the only one who showed skin. So
that's very true. A lot of people showed skin in this, and not all female.
Not all female, yeah. A lot of full frontal male nudity in movies this year. This is the second one I've seen with it. So,
what was the other one?
Saltburn.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Well, that sort of makes sense. So
they
Yorgos.
They should have a best nudity category. Wouldn't that be great?
I'm surprised MTV doesn't have that.
No, best nudity. Does that mean best use of nudity, like artistically, or does it just mean like hottest person who happened to be nude?
That's tough. Maybe we should have that on our Oscar predictions category.
Mm-hmm.
Or Oscar predictions. We'll make our own category and be like, so this was our vote for best nudity.
That's what we need. We need to be a couple of lecherous old cretins.
Yeah, exactly. But it's got to be like best nudity, not in a porn movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say because
that would be tough to pick from.
I couldn't make it past the first 5 minutes of anything. Anywho,
a
let's
lot of
move on.
rewatching.
Yeah.
So Yorgos Lanthimos had read the novel many years before making the film.
Mhm.
And after he became interested in adapting it for the screen, he visited the author, Alistair Gray, in person to successfully convince him to give him the rights to option it.
Mm.
So Lanthimos traveled to Glasgow, where Gray lived and where some of the novel is set. And the author showed him around a number of the real locations in the city, which also appear in the book, including the university. Yorgos Lanthimos gave screenwriter Tony McNamara 3 films as references for the tone and feel of the film.
Mm.
The Ship Sail On from 1983, which I've never seen.
Mm.
Belle de Jour from 1967, which I also have never seen. Have you seen either of those?
No.
And Young Frankenstein from 1974, which I have seen.
Um.
And the one I was
mean,
not expecting to see on this list.
No. Yeah, I get it though.
I actually do too. After watching the film, I'm like, yep, I can see Mel Brooks in this. So Willem Dafoe described the makeup process. Quote, 4 hours in, 2 hours out every day. I'm showing up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sitting in the chair, meditating and trying to deal with standing still. You can't sleep because it's intricate enough that you've got to work with the people applying it. It's a grind. But I liked working with a mask in there, quite literally a mask.
Mm.
So it's funny because I obviously did research for the Potent Notables before I watched the movie. And I'm like, what? He's wearing a mask? What are we talking about? What makeup does he need to have?
Yeah. So you find out rather quickly.
Yeah. Then I saw him. I was like, oh, I get it.
You know what I love? He still looks like Willem Dafoe. You know.
I know.
No offense, Willem Dafoe. It's just I was like, wow, it's just an exaggerated version of Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, it's Willem Dafoe with scars.
Yeah.
So Emma Stone's hair extensions were 4 feet long by the end of the movie.
Good Lord, yeah, because I actually several moments you're like, how long is her fucking hair? Just keeps getting more and more cartoonishly long.
You know, it's funny because I didn't even really notice it that much.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Ruffalo admitted that he normally strongly dislikes filming sex and nude scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But getting to perform most of those scenes with Emma Stone made them much more fun.
Okay. So
but hold on, given her sense of humor and joking between takes.
Oh, that's what it is. He's like, no, it's because of her sense of humor.
Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah. I thought that was funny. So Mark Ruffalo was actually initially hesitant about the role of Duncan Wedderburn after first reading the script. Quote, I said to, Yorgos here, I don't think I'm right for this. And he just laughed at me and he's like, it's you. I don't know how I would take that, Mark.
I don't know how I would either.
So then he said of taking the role, quote, I'm 55 now, and you start to think, okay, I'm on the downside of this hill in a way, and there's a limitation to how long it's going to last and how long my body's going to hold up. And honestly, I'm getting a little bored of myself as Mark Ruffalo. I was trying to take the ship as close to the reef as I could possibly get without actually running aground. There's a daringness in this that I normally wouldn't have. I was just like, fuck it. If I go down in a flaming disastrous performance, I don't really give a shit. But I think that was the best time I've ever had on a movie. To play that character, to do all the physical comedy, the language, and to make the arc that he made, it was so crazy and so exciting. It's 1 foot on a banana peel and the other in a grave.
There's the title of his autobiography. That's pretty good.
I have to say, though, I really get where he's coming from with this.
No, yeah, absolutely.
This is some character to take on.
Yeah, it's, and I can see. I think what Yorgos Lanthimos was talking about was Ruffalo's, comedic timing and everything, because this character is like so comedic, but also you have to hit it correctly. We'll talk about it later, but
yeah.
Like you can't just be goofy. Like you need a lot of things going into this performance. One of which
it's something that you want a dramatic actor to do that has good comedic timing, as opposed to a comedian who's a good actor.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily want to give it to a comedian who just approaches it as a comedy role, because it's not.
Right, exactly. You know who else I think would have been good in this role?
Who's
Ryan Gosling.
Oh yeah, he kind of showed a similar feeling, as Ken, just rather different context.
You're right. But I think he's got really good comedic timing while also being a dramatic actor. So
Yeah, kind of comedic, but also tragic, and
right.
what else?
Well, anyway, after Bella leaves Baxter's laboratory, the first place she goes is Lisbon.
Mhm.
So instead of shooting on location in Portugal, Lanthimos' production built a fantastical dream version of the European city entirely on sets.
Gee, I was wondering.
So the production designer, James Price, said, quote, "We've got to condense the best bits into what is essentially a theme park size set. In real life, Lisbon is known for its proliferation of blue tiles that resonate." Sorry, that was the end of the quote, was the theme park size set. "In real life, Lisbon is known for its proliferation of blue tiles that resonate beautifully with the nearby ocean. Poor Things entirely subtracted the color blue from its version of Lisbon."
Oh my God. I don't think I ever noticed that.
Isn't that wild? Well,
That is
I
crazy.
noticed it because of the quote notable.
Yeah.
And the thing I noticed was that she often wore blue.
Wow.
So
I'm
like,
trying to remember that part of the movie, and it's so crazy to me that you can do something. And I mean, blue is a pretty fundamental color. It's not like you're taking out fluorescent orange, you know?
right, exactly. Well, you know what I thought, and I mean, I could be wrong about this, but I thought the statement that was being made was that she was bringing the vibrancy to Lisbon.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, that's the first time I think the movie's in color. So
It is, yeah.
and then the movie kind of switches to color permanently after that. So that's fun.
So actually, that leads us to our next quote notable. Despite the vibrant colors of the outside world, Poor Things begins in black and white, as you were just describing. So the stylistic choice came as a surprise to Price, the James Price, the production designer, and fellow production designer Shona Heath, who built Baxter's house and laboratory as if it were meant to be seen in full color. Cinematographer Robbie Ryan said, quote, "That was a conscious decision that Yorgos made quite late in the prep stage." The production design team was like, "What? There's a beautiful mint green bedroom that really looked gorgeous, and everybody's a bit sad that it never made it to the final film in color." And
Oh, that's fun. Still,
I wanna see
however,
it now.
I don't know. Yeah, it's one of the. It's like a detail though that really adds something to the production of the movie. I feel, even if we're not seeing it, you know, because the actors are seeing it.
Right. So Lanthimos tries to minimize the use of makeup in his movies, which is funny because we just talked about Willem Dafoe having to be in the makeup in every 4 hours. But his previous film, The Favorite, used hardly any. Hair and makeup designer Nadia Stacy said of working on the film, quote, "Yorgos wants to see skin and potential imperfections. He wants to actually see the person. That's actually really exciting as a hair and makeup designer to strip back like that," end quote. And that's the last quote notable. Well, let's move on to the movie overview.
Yeah.
Movie overview.
So I'm going to let you go ahead and lead this.
The movie overview, the whole thing. So we start off confusingly. Is this very first scene in color? Actually, I think the very first thing might be. I can't remember, or maybe not.
Well, the first thing is in black and white, and they're looking at sheets or like blankets or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, that's like it's got all these patterns that have been sewn into it and everything. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. Now I do. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. That seemed to be telling a story through the sheets. You know.
Yeah. And like I said, with the not knowing anything about it going into it was interesting because it's like you're wondering where this, like, what is this exactly for a while? You're wondering, where is this going? What am I seeing? It's really interesting.
Yeah. And then you're right. It does start in color because when she commits suicide.
Commits suicide.
Color. Yeah.
That's what I thought I remembered. So yeah, we get to see Emma Stone's character jumping off or kind of falling off of a bridge, and it's already very fantastical and outlandish.
Right. Then we get a close up on an eye. We get a weird eye thing going on, and then bam, right to Emma Stone playing piano poorly and in black and white and loudly.
And loudly, she's just sort of hitting the keys, and then we pull out. I think we get our first of those, like, as though seen through a little round lens.
Yeah, the peephole,
all distorted. And you can see her feet are even on the piano playing.
Right.
So it's like, okay. And still, you're not giving any indication of what's going on for a minute here.
No, I know. And then you get to see Willem Dafoe. And I said, what I wrote was, well, Willem Dafoe looks good in this.
Yeah, it shows you what the makeup and the mask part came from. He's all stitched up. His face is taken apart and stitched back up, and
Yeah, it's gross looking.
it's like, yeah, continue. I mean, like I said, it's just more and more like, what am I seeing? Is for a minute I was like, is this movie entirely just like Un Chien Andalou, the Salvador Dali and Louis Buñuel? That movie is just completely abstract. It's nothing but like random images and everything. One of which is a human eye, and then they zoom in on it, and then the eye seems to be cut in half by a razor, which is a little bit of trickery because they used a sheep's eye instead of the human eye that they were showing. But it is kind of startling when you're like, oh, here's a close up of a human eye, and then okay, they cut it in half with a razor, which is kind of both of those things are kind of appropriate for this movie. Not only the like the abstract close up of an eye, but the transmutation from human to animal.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So that's definitely what it made. But I was like, is this entire movie abstract and just nothing but random scenes? Because it seems like that's the case so far.
It's I mean, and then we go straight to Emma Stone not liking the food.
Yep,
and Willem is burping bubbles.
Yeah, he's burping bubbles that come out of his mouth and then pop.
I mean, like it's quite the sound. I'm like, what is happening in this fucking movie?
And he opens his mouth wide, and comically the bubble comes out. Yeah, and it's presented so matter of factly, and everybody in the scene seems to think everything's normal. And you're like, okay.
Everybody in the scene seems to think that everything that's happened so far is normal.
Yeah.
Like you're just like, you as the viewer, you're like, this is abnormal. But everybody that's in it is like, yeah, this is what happens. And you're like, okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah, and not to be too analytical with it, but it reminded me of, I can't remember where I read this quote, but I read a quote somewhere. Somebody was talking about childhood, and they said that when you're a child, everything seems strange, but nothing seems strange.
Right, because it's what
it's the only thing you know, and you're like, normal stuff, just everyday occurrences that you'll learn as an adult are completely ordinary, seem strange. So other things that actually are strange don't always seem strange to you because everything seems strange. You're like, my entire fucking worldview is confused. So this strange thing happening isn't actually all that any more strange than anything else. And that's where Emma Stone's character is in this, because she's got, the mental acuity of a toddler at this point.
Well, right. We don't really know this yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're wondering, is she mentally handicapped? Is she this, that, or the other thing? And actually, when Max first sees her, he says his line.
She's a pretty retard.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that was shocking, but anyway.
Oh, I actually wrote it right here. What a very pretty retard.
He says it. It's like, all right, already.
But before that, jump only a little bit though, because we show that he's teaching surgery in a university, right? And obviously, people are kind of scared of him. But Max isn't. Mm-hmm. He sees him as being a great mind. Mm-hmm. And then he gets a wonderful compliment from Godwin here, where he's like, "Oh yeah, I read your paper. It's, it shows a conventional mind trying desperately to teach mediocrity, to reach mediocrity. I mean,
yeah, it's like, all right, that's nice.
Wow,
no wonder you are willing to do anything he says.
And he's like that.
It's like negging him essentially.
And then that's where we get the what a very pretty retard, because he convinces Max to come
live
to his house and basically take notes on Bella.
Yeah. Actually, the part of the movie where we see the university and everything for the first time was also interesting to me, because it's the first time we leave the house and we say, okay, so the entire world is actually strange. Maybe the interior of Godwin's house is stranger than the regular world. But the world is very strange. The world is already strange as well. The people are strange, and everything is distorted and fake. And this is not just like his house is a magical realm or something like that. It's just a slight exaggeration of the rest of the crazy world.
So at this point, I'm guessing he found her drowned and brought her back from the dead. A modern Dr. Frankenstein. That's what my guess was. What about you?
No, yeah, same. Or yeah, it brought her back from the dead, and that's why she's, her brain is not recovered yet or something.
Right, exactly. And so now that's what I was thinking, is that she is recovering from her, for being dead. So now we're gonna have dinner. She's throwing food at poor Max, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah,
she's throwing food at him. And now we're gonna go down to the basement where he's like cutting up like he's cutting up a live person. He's doing surgery, and then Bella cut too, and he's like, "Oh, only dead ones for Bella." And then she goes over, and she first of all, she starts playing with his dick.
Yeah, she starts just grabbing it and and dropping it, so it's flopping everywhere. And they cut to Max, and he's like I'm so confused right now. Yeah. Or I don't know what Max is thinking exactly, but
then she starts stabbing the guy, and he just starts stabbing his eyes.
Yep,
saying squish, 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 and I'm like, this is really gross.
Well, however, we do get Godwin saying only dead ones for Bella, and Bella says only dead ones. Yeah. Oh well, good. I'm glad.
Just dead ones for Bella.
Yeah. So have we mentioned she started calling him
God?
By his name yet? God.
She does it in the next scene.
She very unsubtly refers to him to the rest of the movie as God. So.
Yeah. Well, because his name is Godwin.
His name is Godwin. I get it. At first, I was just like, is he instructing her to call him God?
That's what I thought too. And also, it was a weird scene, right? Because he's laying in bed with her.
Oh yeah.
And he's like telling her stories or whatever. And I was really feeling uncomfortable.
Me too.
I was like, oh, but it didn't turn sexual. I was glad that it didn't.
It's a rather sweet scene in its way, maybe not knowing what you find out later, or maybe still knowing what you find out later. I don't know. It's all very confusing, but yeah, he she wants him to sleep there with her in like a childish way, and he says no and just disengages himself from her and leaves. And it's like kind of I don't want to say it's nice. I don't know what it is.
It's weird. I was glad that it didn't turn sexual. Is basically all at that point in the movie. Having seen the whole movie now, it makes sense that it didn't.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I'm actually a little uncomfortable throughout a few scenes going forward, given that she's getting older. She's gaining language skills and everything like that pretty quickly, but she's still so young and inexperienced and everything.
We're gonna talk about this coming up, because
let's keep going.
I was like, how am I supposed to feel about this?
Yeah.
So Bella, they bring out a map at some point, like she's working with Max, and she's like, I want to go here and I want to do this stuff, and she just starts walking away from the map, right? Because she's gonna go up to the roof.
Yeah,
that's where we get the keyhole camera again. They're up on the roof, and Max is worried and blah blah blah. But he's sort of starting to see her, I don't know, purity, I guess. Yeah. I don't know if purity is the right word. It's just like her naivete, her genuine interest in the world, right?
Yeah.
And then we cut back down to the basement, because Max is like, hey, what the fuck is going on? You got to tell me what's going on, because he's starting to like Bella.
Fair question.
But we cut back down there, and the woman's hair is on fire, and they're just like taking notes.
Yep, they seemingly set a living woman's hair on fire, and are just watching.
Yeah, so it's like, what is happening?
It seems to be on fire still. That's scientific deduction. Things that are on fire stay on fire until a fuel source is removed. Interesting. Never would have thought. Also, human hair is flammable. I didn't know. Also, they have some muted senses of smell, or just don't mind the smell of burnt hair.
Oh, I do not like that smell at all.
It's why? Because I think it's an unnerving smell, in the same way that the lizard part of our brains doesn't like the smell of decay. Because some part of us is saying, "Get the hell out of here." You know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever's going on, it's not good.
Yeah. So anyway, Bella wants to go out, right? And that's sort of what Max is going down there to say, like, hey, I'll take her out if you don't want to do it. And so they end up going out. And he's got a motorized carriage.
He's got a
with a horse head on the front of the car.
But you don't know that at first because it's coming at you and there's a horse head on the front of the car. And then you see it from the profile and it's just a horse head on the front of a steam driven seemingly car and carriage. It's a carriage, but it's a car. And
yeah,
all right. I think this was my first real indication. Okay, this world is really weird. It's not just like maybe because I was like maybe like Godwin and even Max, they're outsiders, so they see the world in kind of a distorted way. So we're kind of seeing it through their eyes, where the world is really normal, but it looks strange to them because of what. But no, this is everything's.
It's just a fucking weird world, yeah. And then so like they're showing her the world or whatever, kind of sort of, and he's like, Bella, look at this. Max is like, Bella, look at this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a frog in his hands, and she's like, kill it, and then smashes the frog. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I did not like that part.
I didn't either. It was a cute little frog. All right.
So then Max makes the mistake.
She causes him to kill it.
Right.
Really.
She smashes his hands together. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like he's complicit in her killing of it, and it's I don't know. It's all very interesting.
And then we're gonna go to Godwin's. So Max makes the mistake of being like, what's going on with your thumbs? Or Bella, does Bella say it? I can't even remember now.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, my father nailed my thumbs to whatever.
Yeah.
Because it was an experiment, but he was surprised when he came home that I was smiling because I had been thinking of all these other things. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I mean, this is our first indication that everything that's all fucked up about him is because his dad was disgusting.
Yeah. We're like, and he says it so matter of factly. Oh yes, my father had nailed my thumbs to see what would happen to the table or whatever, and he explained, and it's like, and he turns it into a pleasant experience because he's thinking of something else, and he's like, oh, so I made it pleasant through my whatever, and then we continually find out more and more of his father just tortured him as a child, in the name of experimentation.
Well, this movie is as much an exploration of self-identity for Bella as it is for him.
For him, yeah, absolutely.
Because we'll get to it, but by the end, his viewpoint changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's all the time, he's like, now I understand why my dad did this crazy, disgusting thing to me.
Yeah.
Now I understand. And he's like trying to understand it through the experimentation on Bella.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that, the fact that he lets Bella be a person, like live outside of him, is what helps him grow.
Yeah.
With his own realizations. Anyway, so he calls her an experiment, which, like, okay, it felt kind of crazy, he said she's an experiment, but she asked for ice cream, and I'm thinking he probably should have just let her have some ice cream.
Seems like it would have been the better course of action than having her have a fit and knocking her out with whatever you call it, ether or whatever.
Yeah, chloroform.
Yeah,
that was crazy. I was like, and that happened. I was like, this Max needs to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I was a little confused by Max's. So like, okay, we'll just continue. We'll see where this goes. We'll just let it ride.
Let's see where this takes us.
Yeah,
but yeah, so. Now Max is like, I think he stays just to be like, you need to tell me what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, there's an element of
also going to the police.
Yeah, like, and I mean that kind of applies for us too, because we're seeing such strange, sometimes unpleasant things, but we're sticking around because we're like, I gotta know what the hell's happening.
Well, also like her
be confused,
right? And her behavior is so erratic, and you're like, what? Like, is she just mentally disabled, or like what's going on? And I have to tell you what I wrote for this next part.
Mm-hmm.
What? Question mark, exclamation point, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, exclamation point, question mark.
I'm not
the infant's brain in the woman.
Yeah. The reality of the experiment is like worse than I imagined,
right?
And yet, I don't know, maybe I'm a crazy person. For his explanation, once he started telling why it happened, why he did it, I kind of understood a little bit, but was still like, but at the same time, you shouldn't have, like, because he's like, well, she would have died otherwise. Would you rather the world not have her? And it's like, well, that's not the right way to look at it.
No, that's stupid. Because I mean, you essentially killed the baby too,
You
right?
killed the baby. Yeah, that's the big thing, is that the infant was alive.
Yeah.
He's
So it's like,
give me your brain.
Yeah.
Or newborn. Really, it was just
yeah, right.
due to
Newborn. That's right. Newborn, not infant.
Yeah.
Of course, now we have an explanation for her behavior, at
Mhm.
least, and now she's gonna discover masturbation.
Yeah, that comes I'm sorry, I didn't mean the pun there. That
I didn't catch it that time. That's funny.
that arrives surprisingly quickly after we learn about the fact that she is mentally she's progressing a lot faster than an actual child would. I assume that's her adult body kicking in.
So this is the part where I was questioning it.
Mhm. Same.
Because I actually think that she's still just a kid.
Yeah.
Because kids sort of explore their bodies,
Mhm.
and she has an adult body, right?
Mhm.
So the sensation would probably be more profound, I
Mhm.
would think.
Mhm.
And I also think it would be very little kid to be like, well, this feels good. I'm just going to keep fucking doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the same time, she's behaving like a little kid, and
Yeah.
at the same time, not. And
Yeah. So I'm like, this is uncomfortable.
very uncomfortable. But then again, the housekeeper is uncomfortable too in a minute when
right. But
Bella grabs her.
I feel like I was uncomfortable because of her mental age.
Same.
And the housekeeper was more just uncomfortable that it was happening. Also, she goes to grab her crotch, so that's not the nicest thing.
No.
I get why a kid would do that though,
Yeah,
without an understanding.
But here's the important thing: she's not a kid; she's an adult woman.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the disconnect there.
Bella discovered happy when she wants.
Yeah, she's still speaking. Also, like a very small kid. That's like she's acting impulsively and everything like that, but her language is not quite there yet. It gets better eventually, but it makes me question both Max and Duncan.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
It reminds me of this story that an ex of mine told me about their cousin, who, the cousin was just like still having diapers, right? And they were changing her, and I guess she was like naked, and she was, I don't know, dragging like a pillowcase across her nether region, and she was just like, feels good. Yep, feels good. And everybody thought it was like really funny, and it's a funny story, but it sort of reminds me of this in the sense that, like, okay, she's discovered something that feels good, so I think she's still a kid. I don't think that I don't think that they've made the connection here that, like, oh, she's just growing up faster. I think she's just really just a kid who has discovered this thing and is like, well, that feels good, which makes me feel even more uncomfortable to watch it.
Yeah.
And so now Max is going to confront Godwin, right? Because he's like, what the fuck is this going on? Like, are you raising her to be like a sex slave, essentially? And he's a eunuch because of his dad.
Yeah. And unpleasant. I mean, there's no pleasant way to do that.
My gosh.
I think he mentions red hot pokers being applied and thereby destroying the tissue in question.
And Max is just like, oh my God,
and the way he explains, how he would, that would require really rather a lot of electricity being applied, and it's like, okay, you can stop.
Yeah, we got it.
Yep, you really only need to say the one part, and we would have gotten there.
So now he's going to be like, I could tell you guys are in love.
Yeah,
and I'm like, really?
Absolutely not. There's no chance in hell that is the case. If it's the case for Max, that is disturbing because he's finding him, and I understand I get that she's like a fully grown woman. Yeah, but she doesn't act like one.
Well, all she does is look like one. It's sort of like Have you seen that? It's like on TLC or something. I've never seen it. I've just heard about it. It's like a girl that looks like she's 9.
Yeah.
But she's like 30.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's impossible to date because the only guys that want to be with her are ones she would definitely not want to be with.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but the opposite,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think she should be dating anyone or in love with anyone. You know what I mean?
Right. And then Mark Ruffalo arrives, Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
And he's weird.
Yeah. It seems he's a lawyer, I guess. He's
it's never really fully explained what he is it? I think he's a lawyer.
He's supervising the marriage contract they're writing up, which is apparently quite binding. And
then he goes to find her.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, let me just go wander off and find her, which is great.
Yeah. And he's got quite the accent in this also, which was fun. And immediately I'm like, what is with this creep?
Yeah.
And then he pinched her, quote unquote.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Guess where,
Yeah. And of course she likes it because she's a kid.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand that's really disturbing behavior.
And I don't know, it struck me because it's also he came along at the perfect time to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
If he had done that like a week before, she would have just reacted like, a baby,
Right, exactly.
And now she's like, oh, I did just actually realize that's something I like. And that's right when he shows up. And I don't know, the confluence of events was, I guess, fortuitous there. I don't know. Not fortuitous, because I think that usually indicates a good thing.
I will say that at least in Mark Ruffalo's or Duncan's defense here, like he doesn't know about it at all,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Max, that she's just a little kid.
Yep. She has the brain of a child, and it's upsetting that he thinks that this is someone he can marry. It's obviously a statement on the Victorian society infantilizing women in general.
Right, that's true.
And it's like how men especially in the past felt like they had to be the first and everything like that. They were jealous of any previous things, and a woman had to be pure and everything like that. And what more logical extension is there than applying it to actual children?
Yeah, I suppose so. It's made me feel uncomfortable.
No kidding. It's just that it's the fact that nobody else thought it was all that strange is like surprisingly close to the way society would have been then.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, here's a 12-year-old, and I will, if not marry her, then just become betrothed to her as a 55-year-old man like Mark Ruffalo is.
Yeah, that's very true. So we go from Mark Ruffalo being creepy to they had these weird cut scenes, and it's just a brain being cut.
Mm-hmm.
Just chopping up a brain.
Yep. Just cut up this brain. Why not?
But Bella has decided she's going to leave with Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She wants to sow her wild oats. And Max is like, no, you can't do this. I'll fight him. And so she chloroforms him, which is kind of funny. And that's the end of that. And we cut to color.
Yep.
Still a keyhole camera, though.
Yeah.
Or a peephole camera, I guess.
Is this also when we get our first title card, essentially?
Right.
For where the story is going? All of which are just, you say title card, and you think it's just a black background and white writing.
Oh, yeah.
They're all as visually inventive as the rest of the movie.
Yeah. So now Emma Stone is really going for it. Here.
Yeah, she really was into the authenticity factor, because, how uncomfortable, right? Because we're still feeling like she is not mentally developed and everything like that. She's going to Lisbon with this guy, and I'm like, oh, I hope he doesn't take advantage of her or something like that. And then cut wild, what did she call it? Enthusiastic jumping?
Furious jumping.
An awful lot of it. And it's like, okay.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, are we saying that kids would want to do this?
I was really hoping that was not what they were saying, in fact.
So I guess because at one point she says, why would anybody not do this?
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah.
I guess I could see if a kid had adult parts and discovered them, that they would probably engage in it often, because kids lack impulse control, right? And so they find something that feels good, so they'll just keep doing it. But like, I don't know, man.
Well, I do think the movie is positioning the adult men as the problem here, and in not treating it like what it is, which is just okay. You found something out, whatever. We're gonna move on and not focus on that, and they rather encourage it.
Yeah,
given the participation in the furious jumping.
there's a lot of participation in it. I actually wrote, what is this trying to say about the young mind? Anyway, so now she's gone out on her own because you know he's like, I can't just keep doing this. But he's amused by her at this point. And now a guitar player has caught her eye, right? Just playing this lady playing guitar in Lisbon.
It was a mandolin, but I'll allow it.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Okay, this woman playing an instrument, a string instrument. Yep. And now earlier on, Duncan is like sort of showing her the ropes in Lisbon. He's like, nope, we don't eat more than one of these pastries because more than one is too much or whatever.
He's showing her polite society and how one behaves in it.
Right.
Which is rather differently than how one behaves in private society.
Right. And then she decides to eat a lot of those pastries and then throws up and just keeps walking, which I thought was really funny and very little kiddish, you know, just like, okay.
Anyway,
moving on.
It's like the Jeremy Clarkson meme where he's, oh no, anyway.
And now she meets up with Duncan again, and he's like, where have you been? You know, she's like, you must do more furious jumping because I want that now. But he's like, no, well, we're going to dinner with these people. And so he sits there at dinner, and then this woman kind of makes like a colorful joke about things being salty. And Bella's like, yeah, you mean penis. Yeah, Duncan's often taste salty.
I enjoyed her pointing out literally what the joke was about.
Yeah,
it made everyone uncomfortable because I don't know. It's just a funny comment, you know. Like you can make an off-color joke, but then when someone's like, "Oh yes, that's because of the innuendo you made,"
right?
Everyone's like, "Oh, well, okay." Delightful joke on the woman's part, by the way. What it was Bella spitting out food again. And
that's what it was.
Why should I keep something in my mouth if it disgusts me? And she says, I've said that to fucking Chauncey here,
Warren
whatever the fuck.
Yeah, Chauncey, even better. Yeah, it was actually a good joke, but and then she gets up and says, "I must punch that baby."
I must punch that baby now. I was like, this movie so far.
So, you know, Mark or Duncan's gonna he's gonna get up and be like, "What is going on with you?"
Yeah,
and he sort of threatens her. And then she just punches him. And he looks at her and goes, ow.
Ow. Exactly. Well, this, you know, like fucking idiot he is, right? Like he loves how easily manipulated she is via, you know, taking advantage of her poor impulse control. But then when she's not acting like a lady in public, he's like, what's wrong with you? What was wrong with her the whole time, you fucking idiot? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're just noticing this behavior?
Yeah. This is the first first glimpse into Duncan like falling for her, you know, because she's very, you know, she's just sort of like, I want to do what I want to do, which is very little kid, right? He tells her, I want you to only say these 3 lines, and then she says it at like the worst times to say it, which was great. But we're gonna cut back to Max and Willem and Godwin, right? And he's like, do you think she's having sex with him? And he's like, yeah,
I do. and also filleting a train or a tram or whatever, because apparently she's got a proclivity for drawing strange segmented versions of what's going on.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's because she hasn't grasped writing yet.
Yeah, and like, you know, the kid mind is a bit fragmented. You know, it's sort of like not sure of the connections between things. So 2 separate incidents will just merge it together, and that's I'm gonna communicate to you happened.
Filleting a train. So she's gonna end up drinking a lot right after
Yeah.
we see them together, like a lot.
Mhm.
I sort of, whenever they show kids drinking alcohol like this, I always find it kind of unbelievable, because so she spits food. Like, if things are disgusting, why would I keep them in my mouth? Well, but that would relate to alcohol too. I'm sorry, no kid is gonna taste vodka and be like, yummy.
I agree with you, but I will say that I read this as being almost muscle memory from her previous life as, the adult body, which is not her, it's the mother. Because this is really the kid when we think of it,
Right.
It's the kid in the mother's body. But I interpreted it as a lot to do with this also applies to a lot of the furious jumping. It's sort of like her body remembering something that she used to enjoy and going, I'm going to pursue this, and I don't know why.
You think so?
That's the way I read it, but I don't know if it is really a good way to have read it.
I think I'm too literal for that kind of thing. Because to me, that brain is gone, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I'm
there
just
are no
imagining the
memories.
nerve endings having like a muscle memory thing.
I get it. I get what you're saying. I just,
Mhm.
to me, I'm just like, I see it like she is the daughter. Like, to me, that the mother is gone.
Mhm.
It's just the mother's body is a vessel for the daughter, essentially. We cut to a dance scene, which was
Mhm.
hilarious.
The wackiest.
Good.
I'm just going to call it fucking wacky. Is what I was going to call it because it's some weird dancing. And this is really funny because her dancing is weirder than everybody else's, but their dancing is all weird too. This is like reminds me of earlier when I realized the whole world is strange. She gets up and starts dancing weirdly, but everyone else is dancing weirdly too. And I remember thinking, like, dancing really is just a socially agreed upon series of random movements, right?
Right.
And it's only strange if we haven't agreed that is the appropriate movement to make.
Yeah. Very
And
true.
an awful lot of the other dancers were doing the same thing. So they weren't completely wrong. And you see, this actually goes along with my muscle memory thing where how does she know how to dance? Well, the body remembers how to dance. Anyway.
Well, but kids enjoy dancing. I mean,
Yeah, but she's doing a lot of the appropriate moves. Like she seems to know. Like if you watch the dancers in the background, they are doing a lot of the same stuff. Is all I'm saying. She's not just like gyrating randomly.
You don't think she's mimicking them?
She might have been, but she also can't really see them too much.
It's interesting. Okay. All right.
It's just my take. I'm not like buried to it. I'm also
No,
not
that's
married to her,
okay.
because that would be fucking weird. Max.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Max, exactly. But we get another peephole camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what these shots mean. Do you have a theory?
Well, my theory was just that it was like we were looking into the life. We weren't experiencing it. We're just watching it from afar.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you've already established that,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know that we need to keep going back to this.
I enjoyed it stylistically. I'm not sure it worked.
Right.
Like from a meaning level.
Well, I think they did it, I think they were like, it seemed to me like at first it seemed like they were trying to say something, and then it seemed like they were just trying to add to the world, right? Of how strange it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Duncan's going to tell her to stop talking or whatever he said. And she says, I will not stop talking, and throws a cup at him. And he's just like, what? You can't do this.
She's like hell I can't. Just did.
But what if the tongue play you were about to perform? Is that not happening now?
Mm-hmm.
Because so this is where she tells how she meets this guy, and he's like wants to find out how how soft her skin is, or thigh, or whatever.
He was teaching her chess, and he randomly mentions that her skin looks soft, which is like
gross.
More perverted behavior from these fucking guys. Everywhere she goes, some guy is being disgusting.
It sounds like the life of a woman to me.
It does to me too.
I'm
not saying it's inaccurate. I'm just saying it's gross.
And it's interesting too, because she's just, because she's a kid, she's like, oh well, let's see,
Yeah. And also she's got this experimental mindset that she gets from Godwin.
Right, exactly.
Where she decides to test, is the other thigh just as soft? And no, they weren't.
Well, so then she's like, So then she's like telling Duncan here that he that he ate her out basically.
Yeah.
And then he's like really upset about this.
Yeah, Duncan's not thrilled, which I do get.
Do you though?
I mean, he's viewing it as an exclusive relationship. Should he
Is
be
he?
viewing it that way? I mean, he's viewing it as at least in a love affair of sorts. I don't know if he knows how mentally old she is.
Well, he doesn't, but at the same time, like, you convinced her to go on a fling with you.
Yeah.
And then you're mad that she explored with other people. I don't know.
Well, again, that sounds like the way men tend to behave.
Yeah.
What's good for the goose, is not always. So actually, the reverse would be the case, since the gander is the male. But I'm sure he thinks he's allowed to do what he wants, and she has to wait, quietly for him, because that's how men acted, and
Yeah.
still do in many cases.
I guess. No, I think not. I shouldn't say I guess. You're right. But I still like. It's sort of good that I guess that this movie is like making you think like, what?
Yeah. Well, that doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This is actually where we find out about the branding of his balls, by the way. This is right after this. But anyway, so now we're cut back because he's like, you want to try some exploring here, get in this case.
Yeah, this trunk.
And she does. And then when she gets out, she's on a boat and he's strapped her at sea, which, she recognizes actually kind of right away.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because we're definitely reaching a level of mental maturity now where she's not as interested in physical pleasure as she is in sort of learning. Right. But I love Duncan goes, it was for love. Don't be such a cunt about it.
Yeah.
What? You put her in a fucking trunk.
You put her in a trunk and then brought her aboard a ship. You could have asked her if she wanted to go on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny that she starts to diverge from him as soon as she's not interested solely in the physical.
Right.
And suddenly,
which he has told her that he is very good at, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it seems to possibly be the case. I don't know.
Yeah, it turns out he was speaking the truth, but now she's gonna meet like an older lady and Jared Carmichael, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the old lady says she hasn't had sex in 20 years, and that's the first thing that she says to Duncan. My new friend has not been fucked in 20 years.
I like how I hope you at least masturbate sometimes. And then, sometimes. And then Bella, that is much reassuring to me.
Yeah. He's going to profess his love to her. Duncan is going to profess his love to Bella.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want to marry you. And she's like, no, I'm already going to marry Max.
Mm-hmm.
You're just fun.
Yeah.
And then he gets really angry at her, I'll fucking throw you overboard.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, you wish to marry me or kill me?
You wish to marry me or kill me. One of the two.
So anyway, we're going to cut back to her, with her new friends, Jared Carmichael.
She's reading Emerson.
Yeah. And can I just say, I don't know how you felt, but Jared Carmichael is not a good actor.
He wasn't great. I liked the character. He had a good energy. His acting was not the best.
It was bad. It was just bad.
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, it was. I really got to the point where I was like, can we fucking be done with this guy?
Mm-hmm. I was trying to be forgiving because I liked the character, and it didn't work entirely.
Yeah. No, I didn't like the character because of the acting.
Because of the bad acting. Well,
yeah. So
I mean, I kind of get it though. So he wasn't very good.
Well, so we're gonna get a Mark Ruffalo's Jason Momoa impression.
Yeah,
takes her book and throws it to sea, and then the old lady gives her
hands her another book,
and then he throws that to sea, and then walks away.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that pissed me off about it is like she goes back to him eventually, and she's like, "Okay, I'm ready to like be with you. I want to lay with you tonight, basically. Let's do some furious jumping." And he couldn't be bothered to leave the poker game. I was like, you threw her book into the sea, but you couldn't be bothered to leave your poker game.
Mm-hmm. More hypocrisy,
right?
On the part of the masculine half of the world. Speaking of which, I enjoyed her little jest. Well, she didn't mean it as a jest, but the movie did, when she's reading Emerson, and she, says Emerson believes that man can improve himself. I wonder if he thinks the same about woman.
I know.
Maybe he doesn't know any. which, by the way, not super inaccurate about Emerson.
Right. So now he finally comes back to the room, and then they get into like another argument. And he's basically, his estimation here is that Martha, the older lady, has turned her against him.
Yes. Well,
right.
Learning the slightest thing about the world is what turned her against him, but that's okay.
Right. But so, right. In his limited mind, it's Martha. And so he says he's going to throw Martha overboard. Right?
She says, I dare you to.
Yeah, I dare you.
And then he goes to throw her overboard.
He's really going to go do it. Was he really going to throw her overboard? That's just so funny.
I can't remember the Jared Carmichael character's name, but he like tries to stop him because it's clear he means harm. And then she says,
and then she's like, no, I could go for that.
I'd like to see him throw me overboard. I didn't expect to die, but it might be interesting. And he's, all right, well, apparently she wants to die. I'm sorry for standing in your way.
Yeah. I actually like that part too.
The entire scene was so comical. And, he's threatening to kill an old lady, but his
name's Harry, by the way.
Harry. He's kind of bad at it. So that's, he's bad at this attempted murder. Kind of drags her.
He's also good.
I was going to say, he's not even near the edge of the ship, by the way. They're on the upper deck part. So even if he threw her off, she would probably be very badly hurt because she would fall to the next deck.
Yeah.
To the next deck, but it wouldn't be in the ocean unless he can really throw her.
Also, we saw him fight,
Yeah, he's not very good at it.
Who he fought. He's not very good at it. But I mean, I'm like, okay, so I guess she's gonna fuck Harry now,
Yeah. But no.
But she doesn't.
I very much read Harry as gay. So
did you?
Yeah, well, it might just be Jared Carmichael being very queer. But yeah, I mean, she goes to his cabin in the middle of the night. He's wearing a fabulous dressing gown, by the way. And he has no interest in, unlike the other men who immediately go, attractive woman, really naive, easy to manipulate. I know what I'll do with her. His reaction is not that at all. His reaction is one, you really want to know what the world's like? I'll show you, and not, via.
Yeah, but there's also condescension from him too.
Oh, absolutely. He wants to like foist his worldview off on people, right?
Right. So he's manipulating just in a different way. He's got intellectual manipulation.
I agree.
So yeah, he's going to take her to Alexandria, right? And he's going to show her the poor that are not doing well.
So, but I just want to mention from a set perspective, like a set, the scene.
Yeah.
So Lisbon was a miniature version of Lisbon because they built a little set, right? This was an even more miniature version of Alexandria.
Yeah, very miniature.
Which is basically one small bit of rock with a lighthouse coming up out of it. And like
that had a really fancy restaurant.
That had a restaurant seemingly in the lighthouse. I don't know.
Yeah. How do people get to it?
It's a good question.
Because the stairs are broken.
Yeah. And then like the slum part of is just right below that. Like you could just spit and you would hit it because Alexandria is like 10 square feet. But like at the same time, I don't know. It was apropos since she's learning about being poor and she sees a bunch of dead babies. They're very much right there in her psyche. So
yeah.
And by the way,
it's
the
funny that she goes
the lighthouse.
Baby.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, she's
learning empathy.
Empathy, exactly, and caring about other people. Oh, and not just selfish pleasures. Oh, that's interesting that that's the case. And Alexandria, the lighthouse, shining, light into the ocean and just splitting the knowledge from the library, all that, whatever.
Yeah.
Moving on.
No, it's cool that it was Alexandria.
Obvious metaphors 101, but that's okay. I like it.
Then she's very upset, right? She goes back to the room. Duncan's passed out drunk with money everywhere.
Money everywhere. Lots of money.
And so she collects it all, every last dollar, and then is like, I have to go and give this to the poor. And then she gets manipulated again by these guys who are like, well, we're going to stay ashore, so we can do that for you. She's
we'll
like,
just
thank you so much.
She never finds out that she's been manipulated there, by the way.
I know. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, to her knowledge, she successfully gave to the poor.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was really fucked up that they robbed her.
No kidding. It was
Did not like that.
It was a super fucked up thing. And then again, she didn't find out. So it's like even more because like she didn't even learn for next time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then she's going to go back to the room and Duncan's like got the marshal at arms or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, I've been robbed, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, you weren't robbed. I had the,
Yep, I took
the money. And he's like, oh, okay. And then, so he's like, and then so the guy's like, so do you want me to bring the captain here anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's like, and then Duncan's like, no, fuck off before I break all your teeth.
Yeah.
It's a fart noise.
Yeah, the fart noise at the end was what really made that.
I know. I really enjoyed this. Like, so yeah, this is where he finds out that she just gave away all his money.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pretty upset about it, which, I get it.
Yeah. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but I do understand being upset she took all the money. So
right.
And he doesn't have any other money, so that's. And then it's funny that
they basically kick him off.
It's funny that the whatever the guard was, he overhears about the giving away the money, and then he does bring the captain. But I've been informed that you might not be able to settle your bill. It's like,
I know. I kind of enjoyed that. It's unfortunate that it happens to her too, but also, it's good. We're going to find out it's good for her because now they're in a very cold Paris.
They're in snowy square Paris. By square, I mean they're in a square of
right,
some sort,
like a town square.
Yeah,
and it seems very clear that she's about to become a prostitute.
Yeah, it's hinted at very quickly. She walks up to a house with an older woman standing outside of it, and it's like, well, there's a whorehouse.
Yep.
Is this a hotel? We have rooms.
Yeah, exactly. And then she gets up to the bedroom and there's fucking stirrups at the foot of the bed.
That upset me. I was like, why are there stirrups? I don't get it. They might use those beds to give birth when necessary too, is my assumption.
I don't know. I was not a fan.
Me neither. How about that? And she decides to, it is a good business decision to make the 20 francs profit each time. And I assume that that's a decent amount of money.
I have no idea, but I will say this. It definitely, I thought it was a fascinating take,
Mm-hmm.
like she discovers that she can use her body, manipulate men,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to being manipulated by men, and can use it to her advantage, monetarily, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like it feels like the men just manipulate for sexual favors.
Yeah. But it's also interesting because she mentions, well, I can get money from it and it's something I want to do anyway.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe not every time, every way, and with all of the people, but still it is something that I do want to pursue to some extent. It's really like any labor, it might be a labor that you enjoy sometimes, although other times less so.
And she comes back out to him. By the way, I love the way she talks to Duncan. So it's like straightforwardly.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like,
hide anything.
Yeah, she goes up to him and she's like, yeah, so I just fucked this guy for money,
Yeah.
And, he lasted all of like 3 seconds. So you're right. You are much better.
This is much improved my outlook toward you.
Yeah. And of course, and it's so funny because the movie has you in the mindset of being like, yeah, that's kind of nice. It's almost sweet,
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Maybe
and
they're going to get along
like,
now.
You hoard yourself, which I mean, if it was the woman that you were in love with and she was just walked away and
mm-hmm.
fucked some guy for money and came back and was like, hey, he was not good, but you were, so that shows how good you are.
Yeah, but I did make this money and now I bought, a fucking croissant or some shit.
Yeah, I would, I probably would feel similarly to him, I guess, but.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's, he's very much in the social mores of his time. And I mean, her being promiscuous is one thing, but now this is like, the most fallen a lady can be. In fact, every story from the time, if a lady falls, this is where she falls to.
Right. Exactly.
Although you can get even lower and you can end up selling your teeth and your hair. Like Anne Hathaway in Les Miserables. That's, I guess, worse.
Never seen it or read the book or seen a play, seen the musical. No, none of it.
And she sells her teeth.
And hair, apparently.
Well, she shaves her head. That's not weird. That grows back, those hairs. The teeth is a very upsetting scene in the movie. Because they yank them. They just yank them out without anesthetic.
Oh.
And they're going to use them to make
okay,
dentures.
I got it. Okay, I got it.
So that's probably worse than
more of that.
That's probably worse than selling one's body for sexual purposes. But
well, I actually don't think that there is anything wrong with it.
no, yeah, and it presents it as I mean, she's being manipulated somewhat by the
The
madam.
head mistress, yeah.
But that's the case with all labor, right?
Right.
It's no coincidence that we meet the socialist character who brings her to socialist meetings because and I mean, and Bella gets the hilarious line about how she's her own means of production.
Oh, I know. I loved that. That was so good.
Yeah. That's skipping ahead a tiny bit. That's when we found out that Duncan has not left Paris and come back and is now obsessed with her and won't. I need you back now because
I don't think he's left Paris. He didn't.
Yeah, I don't think he left either. But
yeah, he just stayed there and because he has no means to leave, and he just ends up being in jail.
Well, he did take. Remember, she had the money that God gave her, sewed it into.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
And then she takes it out, and Duncan's like, "You had money this whole time," and Steve takes it from her and leaves. So he might have left and come back, but either way, it doesn't matter. He is stalking her essentially. So
it's sort of fascinating because she decides to become a prostitute to get more freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a fascinating thing. Like it's a fascinating sentence to say,
Mm-hmm.
but she develops her own like criteria,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like she's gonna fuck whoever that they have her fuck, I guess. But she's like, first you're gonna tell me a childhood story, then I'm going to tell a joke, and then I'm going to smell you.
Make sure, and if necessary, apply some sort of perfume.
Right, exactly. So the first one, it was cute, you know. She does a knock joke and he laughs, and then she smells him and she's like, "You smell okay. Let us fuck."
I didn't quite catch the childhood story of his because I speak no French whatsoever, and she translates some of it, but not all of it. I guess he hurt himself and was mesmerized by the sight of his own blood. I think was the upshot of the story. Did you catch much of it?
I don't remember it. It doesn't really matter, you know.
I just set aside a moment to complain. Movies do this. Books do it even more. Authors just assume you know some French, I guess. I can't tell you how many books I've read where some French occurs. Never any translation whatsoever. They don't say which means. They don't write it in English, which you could do and say he said in French. They don't even often have someone responding in English in a way that makes it clear what the person said. They just think you can read French. And I don't know any fucking French. And I don't like being assumed.
Well, you're talking about older books though, right?
Some more recent books.
Really?
You just toss French in. And this isn't like in, say, Lolita, which is appropriate here. Humbert speaks in French.
Appropriate here.
It is. Takes place partly in Paris. He goes to see a child prostitute. He chickens out, but he goes to see one.
I don't remember that part. It's interesting.
But anyway, he does say things in French and doesn't translate them, but he's also a pretentious fucking pedophile. So that fits for his character to just write things in French out of nowhere. People do that, and I fucking hate it. And it's like, I don't know French, you idiot. It's not even like I'm reading a book in French. Anyway, moving on.
Can we just talk about, since you brought it up here, how angry I am at Vladimir Nabokov whenever this comes up, that he made me like want the pedophile to win.
I know. Yeah, that's
you should not be allowed to be that good of a writer. Anyway. Yeah.
And it's like I mean, Humbert will be making points, and you're like, that is a good point. Wait, what the fuck? It's not a good point.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn it. You spoke very eloquently there, and then I kind of agreed with you. And I don't agree with you at all. So yeah, that's incredible. But I mean, that kind of happened with me and Godwin Baxter earlier in this movie when he's explaining about what he did with the infant's brain and everything like that. And he's like, I took, she was dead and I made her into a person again. And I was like, I kind of get it. Wait, no, I don't. And I mean, it is instantaneous. This wasn't like I was spending whole portions of the movie being like, I think he did the right thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, okay, so let's get back to this now because now we're gonna see a guy acting like a crab.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I have no idea. And then she fucks Captain Hook.
Yeah. The guy with the hook for the arm, and then they're having like a 50 Shades of Grey moment, but he's just humping her leg.
I know, that was weird.
And I like that one, how bored she looked. Like,
I know.
It's just the sexual mores that people have. All of that is somehow believable, and that, you know, these guys can't do that with whoever, so they go and pay to have it done, and if nothing else, it stays there, I guess.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, it's probably good for people to get this out of their system.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder, what the fuck? Like, why? What? You know? Like, and it's not just perverted behavior. I'm not the kind of person who says that's perverted, you shouldn't do that. Some of it's just fucking weird. Like, if people did this in non-sexual situations, I would think it was weird. You know what I mean? And then they do it in sexual situations, and I'm like, why? Why a crab? That doesn't make any sense.
It sort of makes you wonder, though, is like what you were saying about dancing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's random movements that we've all agreed upon to be okay, right? It's one of those things where if we didn't construct this societal norm, then people might not feel as repressed, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, it seems like repression is a lot of what creates these strange fetishes.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, because you feel like you feel like you can't be yourself or whatever. And so, anyway, which is not, I don't know how you fix that, but like,
me neither. And which is not to say that all fetishes are the result of something bad or anything like that. It's just sometimes it gets focused in a strange direction.
And it gets focused because you can, it's like binge eating bad food. Like when you've been on a diet, you know, you restrict yourself, and then that's all you want. Yeah.
So that's true.
So we find out she goes to surgeries when she feels homesick.
Yeah. Looking a lot like Wednesday Addams, if you ask me. That's how she's dressing at this part of the movie.
Yeah. And then we get a really weird scene here where a guy brings two students to give them a lesson about sex.
You didn't catch that they were his sons?
No, I didn't. Those were his sons?
Yep. My sons are of an age to learn something about this, he says. And she says, I guess, okay. And they're taking notes.
I did not. I thought he said they were students. But
they're students, you know, so who better to teach you than your father, I guess, about this.
That makes it even more weird, because I thought it was pretty weird just to begin with.
He's doing it somewhat analytically though. I think she can appreciate that. Like a demonstration, like for instance, she goes to these demonstrations of surgery and demonstrations of postmortems. Doesn't seem that strange to her in that sense, I guess. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, the next part is where we get the, Duncan yelling up to her, and she's like, "Would you just go away?" And he's like, "You're whores." And she says, "We're our own means of production." And I love that line.
I kind of wonder if anybody out there can relate to someone being abusive and breaking up with you cruelly and then immediately demanding that you get back together with them and being pathetic.
No, I don't think so.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen.
I think that's uncommon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, God is dying, and his dying wish is to find Bella. So Max is going to go looking for her.
Sorry, he's got cancer. Which we find out because he has Max open up a tumor that he has. And
thanks for that scene.
Yeah. And it looks like it's grown, and I see polyps. I guess I'm going to die of cancer. And Max is like, yeah, I guess that's what I would have said too. So.
So, they get lucky that Duncan sends a letter to Godwin. And, so this, Max is able to find her and gets word to her that Godwin is dying. And so she comes back. And the first thing that is really said about her is the maid there goes, "The whore is back."
Yep.
Like, oh, geez.
Well, yeah, the maid is kind of an interesting character, actually, because of how distastefully she feels toward Bella or throughout this entire part. Oh, we forgot to mention, by the way.
The other one. I was just gonna say that, but go ahead.
So when Godwin's initial reaction to missing Bella is, "I made the mistake of getting attached to her. We need to do this again." with one that I don't get attached to, and I'll just treat it completely like an experiment. So they get Margaret Qualley apparently to to be kind of a second-rate Emma Stone, and unclear where they got her body and everything from, but the same thing basically has been done, and her development is much slower, it would seem. So I'm not sure they're 100% satisfied with their progress on that. But Godwin is, treating it more like he has no empathy or affection towards this one. Which
Max is like, what? Do you have to be so cruel?
Yeah.
That's where we hear that. But anyway, but you're right. So Margaret Qualley is playing another version of what happened to Bella, and now she's like ringing a bell, going bell whore, bell whore.
And I liked Bella. I see you've talked about me or whatever.
Yeah. But Bella's gonna be like another one.
Yeah.
She says that to Max. This is where we get the turnaround for Godwin. My father once told me, carve with compassion, but he was a fucking idiot.
It's kind of perhaps a little bit too quick for a turnaround, because he just kind of does too quick.
Right. It is really quick, actually. You're right.
But it is still nice that he rejects all of the stuff. Yeah, the father stuff. First of all, he was an idiot. And second of all, the stuff he did was wrong, and loving and compassion is important and good. And I'm going to embrace that as I die, which is good.
Yeah. Well, I guess I sort of accepted it because he was dying. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. No, I wasn't saying that like, oh, it's so bad. It might have had more emotional impact if we had seen more of him trying to be distant and cruel and not succeeding.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I would have liked to have seen that, actually.
And Bella says she wants to be a doctor because she enjoys it. She smelled the formaldehyde when she got home and knew what she wanted, which is to do what Godwin does.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, actually.
Yeah. And he says, my surgery is yours. And I thought, oh, sweet.
Yeah, I thought it was nice. So then, Max, she's going to go for a walk with Max, and they kiss. And she goes, we will need less of your tongue in the future. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah. I will say, though, that Max is very, I kind of liked him at the end and how he treats Bella. He's like, well, it's your body. I didn't like him at the beginning because he was... Yeah, because he wanted to marry a fucking toddler, Yeah, but he is his outlook on how her life is gone is better. He asks if she's been checked for diseases, which is fair because he's not saying you are diseased. He's just saying we might want to get that looked at from a medical standpoint. I thought it was fair. I mean, I could understand that. Yeah, and so it was not a romantic scene at all, but also kind of nice, I guess. Yeah. Well, they're going to get married, right? Yeah. And Godwin is going to take heroin, vitamins, and cocaine so that he can give her away. The cocaine was just because he likes cocaine, though. So. Yeah. And then Duncan's going to show up, and he's going to bring. I guess we forgot to mention that this other woman in Lisbon called her by a different name. So he goes and discovers that this is her husband, right? And he keeps calling her a demon, and the Godwin's a demon or whatever. And he coughs up some blood, and he's like, you see, he breathes blood, not air. And then Max is like, he has cancer, you fucking idiot. And I liked how Duncan's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, in this scene, he's really off the rails. He's like, don't speak to me, you she demon, whatever. Yeah, I know. He's gone crazy. And this guy he's found, her husband, Now we're going to do a bunch of discussion on disembowelment. Yeah. Okay. The former husband here. And then, we haven't even seen just how cruel he really is yet. Yeah, he sure seems like a piece of shit. He's an incredible piece of shit. She decides to go off with him because he's her husband, whatever. And I was just thinking, obviously it's a bad idea, but also remember that your mother, essentially Victoria, killed herself when she found out she was pregnant with his baby. So maybe that should tell you something about. But is that what it was? Because she was pretty far along to have. She was very far along. Yeah, well, something drove her to commit suicide. So I get the impression that she was just as cruel as he was. Yeah, they kind of make that intimation. I'm not
we don't get a ton of confirmation either way, but certainly the way that because she's asking the housekeeper.
Yeah, was I nice? And nobody will talk to her.
Nobody will talk to her, and she says, "Was I nice?" And that's the only thing the housekeeper like reacts to, and she just kind of turns around and looks at her and then keeps walking. So probably not. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think that they were both pretty cruel.
I just want to mention a line I like a lot because I enjoyed the delivery of it when he's talking about the disembowelment. He's describing that the heartache of losing her was similar to I've disemboweled many people.
Right. No.
And I always imagined it to feel this way, and it did feel that way when you left me. And he says there was also a horrible stench when I disemboweled people, but that does not apply here.
Right, that does not apply. Yeah,
I love how serious he was about that part. Like, I think we knew that didn't apply as a metaphor. You didn't have to mention the stench, you fucking weirdo. But hilarious, and like there were a couple of times. I think that was literally one of the times in the theater. I fortunately there were several other people in the theater with me, and a few people laughed very seemingly nervously, but also genuinely thinking something was funny. But they always stopped themselves really quickly because it was always lines like that. So like you feel weird having laughed at it. And also if nobody else laughed, they would be like, oh shit.
Well, I have to say, I found myself laughing quite often in this. And I also was like, it felt very much like I was the only person laughing in the theater.
Yeah. I was
like, it's funny. Come on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, my laugh counter was actually probably 0. I didn't really laugh out loud at anything, but there were a lot of things where I was like, I feel like I might have laughed in a different circumstance, you know?
We get in short order, we find out what kind of piece of shit this guy is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were both kind of monsters, it seems like. But yeah, he's like pulling the gun on the staff constantly, and he like calls her in with the soup just so he can scare her so she can spill soup on herself.
Scare her with a very intimidating looking dog.
Yeah. I was like, how is she going to get out of this?
She tries a gate. It's locked.
But she spits the chloroformed tea at him, right?
Oh yeah, it was a martini, but
martini, whatever it is, and then takes the gun. But he shoots himself in the foot. Oh, go ahead. I'm skipping.
No, I was gonna. No, yeah, it's kind of an interesting and important part. She knows she has to get out of there particularly urgently because she overhears a discussion that he's having with a doctor where the doctor is explaining, oh yes, of course we can perform, female genital mutilation on her, which I don't know what they called it at the time, but for a while they called it female circumcision. And then somebody came along and said, that's not what that is though.
Yeah.
So let's call that something else. And genital mutilation is the better thing to call that. And he has the little, they almost look like the little things that you use to curl your eyelashes, but or maybe it's that combined with the things you use to cut off the ends of cigars with. And he's like, oh yes, we can remove it easily. Would you like just the clitoris removed or the whole glands? And he's like, oh, the whole thing.
Yeah. Just get rid of it all.
Yep. Because he actually mentioned that her sexual proclivities were the cause of some of their disagreements, which
goes back to what you were saying about muscle memory too. So,
so yeah, so just the suddenly genital mutilation was in the movie, and I was like, well, we've really hit on everything, I guess.
Yeah, we've touched on literally everything.
Yeah, even the things we shouldn't have touched.
So
she gets out of it. Yeah.
Yep. And he shoots himself in the foot, and then she brings him home with her, and she decides to replace his brain with a goat brain.
Yeah. Which we see because we see a goat and she's doing surgery, but then later we get the confirmation that that's what she's done in a very strange little bit.
Yep.
Yep. So that's fun. We should get the general some water.
I'm so glad that they actually showed the guy being a goat. I really enjoyed that.
I was actually conflicted by it, and we'll talk about it later why, but still I wasn't mad or anything. It was just okay. So yeah, she at this, we really get, she kind of Godwin's dead. She takes over, she's learning to be a doctor is what I should say. She's about to take the medical exam.
Right.
And Max has been helping her study, and the other whore whose name I don't know from Paris,
she's back
living with them there now.
Which she had an affair with her too, by the way.
Yeah, she went down on her rather enthusiastically. I feel bad I don't remember her name, but I think they said it in French. And like I said,
It's like Claudette or
doesn't matter,
Francine
yeah.
or some French name. Anyway, basically, Godwin dies and everyone lives happily ever after.
yeah, they're a happy little household. They have the maid. They have. Do you remember Margaret Qualley's character's name? I don't.
No.
It doesn't matter. They have her. She's getting there. She caught a ball.
Oh, right.
So maybe she's making some progress. And they have the general, who is also a goat. And
I kind of wanted to see Goat General, like
like the goat with the general's brain.
yeah. So he's like smart enough, but he has no way to.
Yeah, he's a fucking goat. He doesn't even have a larynx. Maybe he does. I don't fucking know. But my impression is that they got rid of that brain because it was no good.
Yeah, well, that's what I figured too. But I just
one big happy family, I guess, and then the movie ends.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the rank.
Oh, wait.
So the rank is where we rank the movie based on 10 categories: story, acting, originality, film coherence, cinematography, score/soundtrack, script structure and dialogue, character relatability, production value, and timelessness. And we rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And the first category is story, and Zach gets to start. So what do you got?
Just want to start off by saying here's a movie that I could see you giving 4s and 5s across the board, or I could see you giving 9s and 10s across the board. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. I'm curious. I'm very curious what you're going to say. I feel like, let me just say this. I feel like your scores are going to be higher than mine, but that's not to give away what my scores are, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that my scores are bad.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a movie that you would appreciate more than I
think it was kind of up my alley. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But story got a 9.35 from me. Just wanted to go tiny bit over 9 1/4. The story was really good. I liked the idea is goopy, but in a way that works because they present such a fantastical world. It's like believable that you could take out an infant's brain and put it in an adult woman and it would work because you just sort of
you could.
Yeah, of course you could. Look at the rest of this fucking world. I liked it as a method of examining social mores from the time and the way society treats women. I had some problems with the story, and it's really just sort of the pacing. I found the pacing to be off a lot of the time. Typified with the quick turnaround where Godwin, goes back to being like more analytical and less loving, and then he immediately, says, "Oh, that was wrong." Stuff like that. Just some plot points that kind of came too quick or didn't come quickly enough. At times, I'd be interested to see maybe a longer version of it, see if they had to cut some things out. And I'm actually super interested in reading the book because I'm interested to know just what they took out, what they added, and was it quite so fantastical? Is it presented more realistically, or is it just as fucking fantasy world?
I would love to see this as an HBO miniseries.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be neat.
Yeah.
5-6 episodes of this?
Yeah.
And we could really devote a lot of time to each place.
Exactly. Because, like with anything,
mm-hmm.
whenever you adapt a novel to a movie, things are going to feel like they've gone too quick.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually gave story a 9.25.
Okay.
So pretty close to you. It's funny because I was like, how do you even describe this story?
Yeah.
So somebody comes up to you and is like, what is this about? So it's about this woman who died, but is brought back to life by implanting the brain of the full-term baby that was inside her into her head and reanimating her. Then we follow her around as she learns to be a human, but it's as if a baby came out as a full-grown adult. But anyway, yeah, we see a person progress from a baby to a self-possessed adult.
I mean, that was pretty good. that about covers it.
It's a good story,
Yeah.
I mean, but like really weird.
If I had to be very, very succinct with it, I would describe it as sort of a Frankenstein sort of thing.
Right.
Which is funny because he's sort of he's the monster and he's also the Frankenstein. Oh. What was I gonna say? Sorry, I interrupted you, and I don't know where I was going.
No, you didn't interrupt me.
All right.
Well, the next category is acting, and I'll go. I gave it a 9.65.
Okay.
Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and Willem Dafoe are basically a 10, or pretty darn close to it, right? Jared Carmichael is not a good actor in this, anyway. I shouldn't say he's not a blanket statement. He wasn't good in this, though. I've seen his comedy, and he's funny, and more power to him for trying to take on a role like this. But I mean, he just wasn't good in it. So he was so decidedly bad that he keeps this from being a 10 for me. He even keeps it from being a 9.75 for me. So,
well,
there you go. What about you?
Mine is easy, 9.75, and I agree that Jared Carmichael wasn't good. I kind of wonder if the I can't remember her name now, but the woman that he was hanging out with, I kind of wonder if her actress wasn't all that good. Yeah, or if her accent was just strange. But yeah, I feel very similarly. Everybody, the principals were excellent, but a couple of the supporting performances not quite there, so 9.75. And I think I had a lot more tolerance for Jared Carmichael than you did. So,
I felt bad because I liked his show that he did.
Yeah.
In general, I like him, but yeah, I was just like,
no, I know what you mean.
Terrible in this.
You're watching it like, I just wish you were better, you know?
Yeah, because like the whole time I'm in this fantastical world, right? And like I've been sucked into it, and then he just sort of reminds you you're sitting in a theater.
You know who it reminds me of is someone the media hasn't really covered this at all, but Taylor Swift. She's not a good actress. She tries to act sometimes and she's not good. So it reminds me of that. Just you can't do that part of it, Taylor. Sorry. No EGOT for you. Well, you never know. She could get better if she works at it. Well, that's what I mean. Maybe Jared Carmichael will get better too. Well, that's what I think. You know, I mean, it's sort of a daring role to even try when you haven't had, you don't have much of an acting resume. So more power to him for that. But it's a heck of a movie to cut your teeth on, you know? Yeah. I just feel like they could have gone with somebody that was more skilled. Anyway. And by the way, Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe, the three of them, like powerhouses. Yeah. And like, I don't want to say unrecognizable because they were all recognizably themselves, but their mannerisms and everything were so. Oh, I know. They were their characters. Yeah. It wasn't, I felt a little bit like Willem Dafoe because he's such a recognizable figure. Yeah. Like his face. But yeah, they were all perfectly inhabiting an actual character and not just versions of themselves or something like that. And Remy Youssef. Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say just Remy Youssef. He was kind of a big part of the story. He was pretty good. Not quite at the level. I was saying, because I was like, that's Remy Youssef. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. No, he's not quite at the level of the other three, and I think that would be a difficult. Like, you really have to bring your A game. Well, but it was good because he was in a role where he didn't need to be. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like his character was a lot less nuanced, which I think was good. So I think it worked for him. Yeah, that's So anyway, next category. I was going to say, though, one of the things I think you can really tell when there's good acting in a movie, with us anyway, that we're appreciating the acting, that we don't really slip up. We just keep calling them the character names. Yeah, yeah. So like we were both just like, I don't know who Jared Carmichael was, and I just happened to have written it. So I was like, oh, it's Harry. And the woman, I was calling her the old woman. Right. So, and then I was like, I wrote down Martha at some point and I was like, oh, right. It was Martha. So again, those two, but like the other ones, Godwin, Max, Bella, and Duncan, I just knew those names because I saw them as that. So same speaks to the acting. Anyway. So the next category is originality. What do you have for that? So originality? Yep. I don't know if anybody's been listening, but this movie is nothing if not original. So it gets an easy 10 from me. Yeah, it's funny. I had trouble with it because I gave it a 9.15. Okay. Were you done? Actually, I shouldn't just. No, I was gonna nothing if not original. That's all I got. So it's definitely very original, right?
but it actually seems very much like this director.
Yeah.
So have you seen The Lobster?
No, I've wanted to.
It felt very much like that movie to me. So it's and every director has like a style, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to shit on him because he's using a style, like he has his own style. But I can't help it. The other movie that he did was The Favorite, which was also nominated for Best Picture, and also had Emma Stone in it. They're not the same, but they just. I was like, oh yeah, especially with The Lobster. I was like, oh yeah, this guy made The Lobster. Also, the story is fascinatingly original and yet pulls from a lot of classic sources like Frankenstein, right? Yeah. So it is often not its own thing, but then very much is. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. I see just what you mean. I'm not changing, but
no. Yeah, I'm like debating on whether I should go higher or not, because it was like, I don't know how you go into this and be like, oh, it's not original. And I realized that I'm saying that it's that it's not like I gave Barbie a higher originality score. But I don't know. It's just.
No, I actually haven't seen any of his other movies, so that might be sort of a difference. This is my first introduction to him, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's go to the next category, which is film coherence. I gave that an 8.75.
Okay.
I think it lasted too long.
Yeah.
I don't have any particular issue, but I really think we could have done less in each version of the journey, and at the same time done more. Like, did we even need Jared Carmichael's character at all?
Yeah, it introduces her to realism and the pain of the world, but
we could have just had her explore on her own.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And did
she
we
have just stumbled on the slum in Alexandria, without
exactly.
Given that Alexandria is 6 feet large.
Yeah, exactly. And she could have been like, "What's going on with these people down here?" And they could have been like, "Well, they're scuzz," But and do we need to spend as much time as we did on the sexual escapades, or the time in the whorehouse? I don't know. I think they just spent too much time on these things. But other than that, though, it was perfectly coherent, I guess. But what about you?
9 for me. Yeah, I agree. I actually would have liked more in each place. But I said that before when I kind of want to see a 4-hour version of this and read the book and everything else.
I feel the same way. Like, I'd like to see more, but if you're going to shorten it, then you should have shortened it more.
I that's fair. I might have liked a little bit more of equal time spent in different places. It felt a little jumpy to an extent. And I'm not saying that you have to spend exactly the same amount of time in Alexandria as you do in Lisbon, but that part felt a bit rushed, and then some other parts dragged out too much. Like, for instance, I don't know, did we really need a whole lot of her and the General Alfie? Like, that part felt like it was like, all right, are we getting toward the end of the movie, or are we doing a whole new thing for me?
Yeah, I agree with you. I had trouble with that.
But yeah, still obviously excellent. I gave it a 9. So maybe some tightening.
Yeah, right. Just I think that's the trouble with anytime you're adapting a novel, right? Because if you're a director and you're adapting a novel, it's probably because you really liked it, right? So you want to include as much of what you loved about the novel in the movie as you can, whereas the reality is you have to take a lot out. I sort of think that I think that we could have cut out all of the general and even the wedding scene, and just like he dies, gives her the place, and then they show them sort of one happy family at the end.
Yeah, entirely possible. The only thing that we would be missing is that she's moved into brain replacement experiments, just like Godwin did, but we don't need that.
Yeah, but you could have done that easily enough just visually, like you could have.
Oh, yeah.
You could have had a dog that has a pig head, or something. or what, any of those types of experiments, and he could have come up like she's like, oh, how's my little boy, or whatever.
Yeah, that would have worked. And the whole thing that happens with the general being a goat, actually I didn't love because it was inconsistently kind of applied. Like it was morally not really right to do that.
Right.
Like it wasn't morally right for Godwin to do a lot of the stuff he did. And I think he understood that by the end, which is the same way he rejected, the way his father did, scientific experiments with no regard to human emotion and frailty. So like the fact that she's moving into doing that without any regard for like life, I didn't love. And she says, he's like, Max is like, oh, well, who cares if he dies? He's obviously a shit. And she says, well, I'm not going to watch him bleed to death right here. Like, and I thought like, oh, Hippocratic Oath kind of thing. She wants to be a doctor. She's going to save a life, even if he's a shithead. But then she kills him anyway, because she takes his brain out.
Well, see, that's why I wanted to see if they switched brains.
Yeah.
Because then she keeps him alive. He just can't harm anybody anymore,
Yeah, but you shouldn't indiscriminately.
Oh, that's not good. I just
that people's brains should be put into goats. That's not a decision I feel an individual should make. It's unfortunate that there's
of my doctor. Like,
well, yeah, same. And like, I get that there's no recourse for this. He's just going to be a horrible person, and she's not like she can go to the authorities and say my husband's mean.
Right.
He should be able to. He's abusive, but I get it. But like, she could have just. But like, I don't know. You don't save his life and then just kill him anyway. He's not. His life isn't yours to play with because he's mean or because he's going to die anyway. It's opposite the actual message of the movie, which is that we probably shouldn't do this stuff. But anyway, doesn't matter.
Is that the message of the movie, though?
No, but it isn't. But it does seem for me to go aside. I mean, to go against what I had taken to be character growth.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Makes sense. Well, let's go to the next category. What even are we on?
I don't know. If we were on film coherence.
So yeah, the next one is cinematography. So what do you have for that one?
10.
10, huh? Okay.
10. The cinematographer, I looked it up, is Robbie Ryan. I want to say his name was.
That sounds
I don't have it now because I'm an idiot.
It's Robbie something. I mentioned it in my potent notables.
I looked it up. Yeah, you mentioned it, and then I went and like looked him up. He also did the cinematography for Paddington 2. Yeah, 10. Sorry, nothing else to say about it. Go fucking see. If this movie could have been horrible, I would have enjoyed looking at every last minute of it.
I give it a 6.75.
Oh, well, that's a difference. That's one of our bigger differences in any movie.
Yeah.
Feel free.
Well, I think it's one of those things where you have to like either really appreciate it or you're not going to like it.
Yeah, fair.
So they were definitely trying something here, but I think it's a little too much.
Yeah.
I like the idea that the camera is meant to evoke that we're watching someone from the outside, just getting these glimpses like through the people on the door, but they go to it too much. And, we get that's what we're doing, without that.
Mm-hmm.
And at times I found it distracting. When it works, it's really cool, but I feel like they just tried too hard with all of the different ways that they shaped the camera work. But I also get how if you're just into the, I also get how it could be a 10 for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if you don't like this type of thing, and it's not that even that I don't like it, I like it in spurts, and I don't want to deal with it the whole movie.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of a lot.
Anyway, yeah, that's it. So the next category is score / soundtrack, and I gave that an 8.75. I thought the score was excellent for this film, in that it helps make you feel the weirdness that's happening throughout. But other than when it's amplifying the strangeness, I don't know that it's doing anything special. So, but the strangeness amplification is really excellent. Well, what about you? What do you have?
I mean, I feel bad, but I have to go with my gut feeling, right? And it's a 10.
Wow.
I thought the score was absolutely perfect and accomplished everything that it should have done and gave perfect musical texture to the images. And I'll just mention, since I didn't say much about the cinematography before, I totally understand not even just not, oh, it's not for me, but thinking that it doesn't work. It's a perspective I understand. And as I was watching it, I was sitting there thinking, man, it's probably good that I didn't go see this like with my spouse, because they would have hated this movie. Like they would have been like walk out mad. Like, remember we talked about Rock Hudson walking out of 2001: A Space Odyssey? It would have been like that, potentially. So, but yeah, no, I think everything absolutely worked. It was both the score and the visuals were the works of, in my opinion, masters. So let's just move on.
Well, the next category is script structure and dialogue. So what do you have for that one?
That one's an 8. This was tough for me because I liked a lot of the dialogue, but a lot of it also didn't work for me. Some of the attempts to make Bella seem so childish and everything just ended up sounding dumb. Like, do kids even talk like that? They were trying too hard with some of it. Some of it was very nice, especially once she starts getting better language skills because she's reading. Imagine that, women reading, and not just novels. Because it's funny, you'll read like Jane Austen or something, and they'll mention, oh, women in their novels, it's the only thing women are allowed to read. They're not allowed to read history, science, philosophy, etc. But she does, so that's good. So yeah, but yeah, and also the script structure not as strong for me. Like, I actually agree with you a lot that a lot of the decisions about being what was left in and what was taken out were inconsistent and possibly could have been better. Again, I don't know because I don't know the scenes, but tightening up of the script as well as the editing might have been good.
Yeah, I feel pretty similarly to you. I gave it a higher score actually than you did, and actually a higher score than what I'm about to say, because listening to you, I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I do remember feeling like it was like a little too far with the little kid stuff. Like they were trying too hard, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gave it an 8.5.
Okay.
And I originally had it at a 9.5.
Yeah, that's a bit higher than I might have expected.
Yeah, I had it at a 9 because I was thinking about how much fun I had with that. Like, it was making me laugh, and I enjoyed the way she was straightforward with Duncan and everything, just very matter of fact. But I also thought that the structure at times wasn't perfect, which is what you said. So one of my biggest issues was with, as far as script structure is concerned, is I feel like they didn't do a good enough job with Duncan, with Mark Ruffalo's character.
Yeah. Okay.
It just wasn't very well rounded. Like we didn't get to understand where he's coming from very well. And we spent enough time with him that they should have been able to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just would have liked to have understood him a little bit more. And I feel like, yeah. Anyway, that's it. So 8.5 for me. Anyway, the next category is character relatability. I gave that a 9.25.
Okay.
I think most of the characters are pretty relatable. Even Godwin is relatable in his psychological stunting by his father, you know? I kind of don't see how Bella's father husband could even have staff with the way he acted.
Yeah.
So he was tough to relate to. Also, Jared Carmichael's character was so freaking bland and uninteresting. So
I just want to
mostly because of his acting.
Yeah. I want to highlight her father husband. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. What are we on? Character relatability. I went with another 8, but I'm thinking of going a little higher because my thinking was that like a lot of these people are not particularly relatable, but that's because they're heightened, crazy versions of, like, they're not supposed to be like the most poignant character portrayals of all time, but actually a lot of them were fairly relatable. Like, for instance, Godwin, like you said, we understand so much about what he's doing once we find out how matter-of-factly he explains what's been done to him.
Right, exactly.
Perhaps exaggeratedly, but not too much. And besides, there are things that are exaggerated even within the world of the movie, but not too many of them. most everybody makes sense for the world that they exist in. So I think I might
also
go.
thought it was understandable how Duncan, like falls for her, where like he thinks he's got a fling, and then she's just so matter of fact that he sort of falls for it and then can't get over it. I think that's a relatable thing. It's obviously a caricature of that type of thing, but it's not so far out of the realm of possibility. Yeah. And then Bella herself, learning self-possession. I thought that was pretty relatable. Anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. No, sorry, I was thinking about something. I think I'm gonna put mine up to an 8.25. Not too far up, but it's not like everybody was just, cartoons. They were just heightened versions of actual things. So,
well, the next category is production value. So what do you have for that?
10. So, even more so than the cinematography is beautiful, but I mean, it's like, if you actually had Venus in front of you to paint, like, the subject is also fantastic. I don't know how they managed it, but I mean, everything looks both perfectly real and completely made up. The entire thing, they kind of captured the way a dream will feel like it's really, really happening, but also like, obviously this is insane. Like, obviously it's so fake. But it still feels so real. Surreal and so real. Both. I'm not even going to explain my 10s too much, except that, that's what it is.
Well, I didn't give it a 10, but I was close. I gave it a 9.5.
Okay.
The production on this was kind of incredible.
Yeah.
So I will say that the camera work distracted for me from the production value. And I think at times it gets a little too fantastical. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it just felt like they didn't really tell us whether it was an alternate universe or just a retelling in ours or what.
Yeah.
So I felt like the production was really fascinating, but it can be distracting too, where you're like, wait, so is this actually Lisbon, or are we in an alternate timeline here? Like what is this exactly? But still, I mean, 9.5 is, I'm just trying to explain, since you gave it a 10, I feel like I have to explain why I didn't go 0.5 higher.
Yeah, no need.
Anyway, the next category is timelessness. And often the hardest category, right? I give it an 8.
Okay.
So I think the weirdness of this will probably help it live on. So I wouldn't be surprised if this movie became a cult classic in the same way as Rocky Horror or Fight Club or Blade Runner. My expectation is that it won't be universally embraced, but that a minority of the population will absolutely love it and cite this movie often, right? Here's my other bet. In 10 to 20 years, the new generation of filmmakers will cite this movie as inspiration.
That is a good bet, actually.
So what about you? What do you have?
8.5, kind of similarly. I'm kind of hedging my bets here. I'm tempted to give it much higher because I feel like it should be something that people keep watching and are influenced by. You're absolutely right. I could so see, a lot of us forgetting about it, and then, someone coming up with a really brilliant movie and then being like, oh, where did you get some of your ideas? And they're like, oh, well, this underappreciated movie from 2023. Or whatever. It's 2023 still. I was like, even if it's gotten crossed into 2024, it doesn't mean the movie came out then. It just is.
Right.
But that's not the point. No, you're right. I think it will be remembered as something that's so fiercely feminist in a way, and so, insistent upon it's social, the way, let's redo that. something that's so fiercely feminist. I think people are going to continue to look at it and be like, this is a great statement. I mean, feel like it should have come before 2023. I don't know. The book is from 1992. Maybe it makes a lot of those points and just the world wasn't ready. But and what a brave performance by Emma Stone to make these points.
What are we going to do with the fucking acting category here?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, and yeah,
Because, like,
So anyway-
Lily Gladstone was incredible,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But, like,
Emma Stone might be better.
yeah, I mean, what?
And talk about
Also,
degree.
Emily Blunt was pretty amazing too, and also
Yeah.
Margot Robbie pretty great.
Yeah, it's funny. Margot Robbie just falling by the wayside over there with a really difficult performance. I don't know. We'll have to think about it later because I don't want to right now. But why was I going to hedge my bets? I hedged my bets because that's okay. No, I'm losing my mind. Because I think you actually make a great point. If it's kind of on a precipice right now, I feel like it could go either way. Because it's getting good reviews, but not like I don't feel like people are like clamoring to see it. So if it kind of just sort of falls off and goes by the wayside, it won't be remembered all that much until people rediscover it. But if it does start to gain momentum and say it wins Best Picture, for instance, I think it'll be very much remembered.
Yeah, I think that's a long shot.
Yeah, true.
and not because I think it's not deserving of it, just because this is the type of movie that doesn't win Best Picture.
Yeah,
typically, anyway.
No, you're absolutely right.
But do you want to know where it ended up?
Yeah, where did it end up?
It is 5th best.
5th best.
Yep. It is directly between Brooklyn and Mad Max Fury Road. So 1, 2, and 3 are all 2023 movies, then 2015, then 2023 again. It had a 180.4 cumulative score.
I'm a little surprised. I thought it might have been higher.
I could tell by the way you were reacting. I was like, I think this is pretty damn good.
It's pretty damn good. I might vote. I might have voted for it for Best Picture if I had a vote.
Really? You thought better than Killers of the Flower Moon, huh? Which is our top movie, by the way.
Yeah, it would be a tough decision between those two and Oppenheimer, but I would make that decision, and it might go this way.
Well, so I will tell you, if you want to know based on your rankings, your personal rankings here. Number 1, Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 2, Poor Things. Number 3, Barbie. Number 4, Oppenheimer.
I am amazed that I liked Barbie better than Oppenheimer. It just goes to show you that when you think about something analytically and actually putting numbers on it, you might actually surprise yourself.
Yeah. Well, I will say it's very close. So Barbie is 91.85 on yours, and Oppenheimer is 91.75.
Okay.
So it's basically tied for 3rd. Now for me, I've got Oppenheimer and Barbie are tied.
Well done.
Yeah, that's funny. And then Killers of the Flower Moon is 1 point lower, exactly 1 point. And then Poor Things, and then The Holdovers.
That's funny.
Anyway,
that was a great day for you back in July. And your 2 tied for the best movies of 2023 came out.
Yeah, right. Apparently, July is a good month.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. That's the whole rank. Thanks everybody for listening. If you'd like to see an updated list of our rankings, you can see that on our website at therankwithjohnandzac.com. These episodes where we're ranking the current nominees before the actual telecast are special. So check out all the others besides this one and find out which one should win that coveted Best Picture Oscar. And goodbye.
Well, I hope you decide to tune in next time. It should be a no-brainer.